that's like my reminder of like, yeah, if you love this, you're gonna have to put a lot into it, and you're gonna have to like take hits. You're gonna have to just deal with what comes. But the music, the shows, that stuff, if it's that important to you, you know, you don't give up on it.
Paolo, thank you so much. I know that you are living a hectic life right now, so yes. I do appreciate it that you take a few minutes. But first of all, congratulations. You are Forklift certified.
I know, it's official.
What's the first thing you did when you got that certification?
I guess I popped on the forklift and took it for a spin.
Okay, but you know, knowing that you are a little bit the mischievous guy in the band,
yeah.
I mean, because even in my very first show, almost 20 years ago that I saw you play, you were, you know, you spent more time in the crowd than on the stage, if I remember correctly. What's the bucket list? What's a bucket list? I should say, not bucket lift. Bucket list forklift challenge that you set yourself now.
Ooh. I guess it would be unloading the entire truck of all our gear. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be the one to do it when it gets home in a couple days from Aftershock, but I guess it is good to be, you know, able to do stuff like that. I think I'd want to practice a little bit more because I feel like it would take a long time because I'd be very like, okay, got to do this thing, got to do that. I'm not like you see some of those guys, they move second nature, and you know, there's a lot of really good forklift drivers out there, so I need to up my game. I need to get the reps, just like playing bass. You gotta practice.
There you go. So for somebody who can come across as a very impulsive, energetic guy, you do take time to plan. That's good to know. I mean, there's expensive stuff involved in your gear.
That feels impulsive has been thought out. I definitely try to take my time and think about it, you know, if I can, you know, but sometimes you do got to wing it. But I guess that's the fun of this job, you know, be a little adventurous.
Yeah. I mean, you do know that when you say that, like, people are going to directly think about like, oh, didn't Paolo made some off the cuff comments a couple of months ago and sparking some controversy?
I did say though, I will say, and I said this the other day in an interview, is that one, obviously, that was just like a Q&A, like live stream. Yeah. So, you know, people were asking what was up with it, obviously during the tour. But a lot of like I felt that like was the part that people didn't realize I said or just didn't read, which a lot of people didn't read, even people on the tour, is that I did say, I think, and I still think, Bullet is a great band, great live band. I mean, got to watch them almost every night. And The Poison is an unbelievable record. I think it still holds up, still stands the test of time. And so, like I said that within the whole statement, of course, you know, I can control what people take out of it.
Of course, yeah.
And, you know, it is what it is. But I think with a little bit of time from the tour, I feel like I think everything's cool. Everything's fine. You know, I think both us and them have gone on to do stuff for the rest of the year that has been beneficial to both of us. And I just felt like that tour was such a great tour. And I think the original ideas were great, but it's like, it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, it didn't take away my like joy of like hearing that record. You know, I'm not gonna be like, I can never hear another Bullet song ever again. You know, it was definitely not like that. I didn't want people to take it like that, but once it's online, it's out of my hands.
Out of control.
You know what I mean? It's in the comment section. It's done, man. It's taken on a life of its own.
Yeah. So let's talk about that tour in a different way, though, because obviously everybody in the band knows the importance or the impact of Ascendancy and some of the individual songs. I mean, when I mentioned to a friend of mine that I was going to be talking to you, it's like, tell him to play Rain every show going forward. It's the best song ever. Like, I mean, you know that there's a special place for that record.
Yeah.
But like going on that tour and kind of being like, you know, confronted almost with that fact so up close, like, what does that do with you from a creative perspective? Because you are now I don't want to call you a legacy band because I don't want to make you feel old, but you are now at a point where every new thing that comes out, it's almost like you almost have to think about a balance of like reinventing or evolution of the sound while
Yeah.
respecting also your legacy and your catalog. Like being confronted with how people in a visceral way react to that album. What does that do with your creative mind when you think about what's to come?
I mean, I guess like we had the benefit of like going and making other records that, at least within our fan base, I feel like were important, like Shogun. I think in Waves, I think Sin in the Sentence. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think Ascendancy, Sin, Shogun, in Waves. Those are my four favorite Trivium records. I think the strongest as a the whole thing, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think it's like because we've been able to make records that like were unique in their own way, and still had like fan appreciation and people like always begging us to play stuff from. It's like it kind of like lifted a bit of the burden. If it was just Ascendancy, if that was the one that like every single person unanimously was like, that is the record, that is your best thing ever,
Right.
I think the pressure would be higher. But it's like
Yeah.
I think it gave us confidence to be like, hey, people do like what we do. They like us experimenting, they like us trying things. But to go back and live that record not only on tour but also rehearsing it over the summer. We were writing music as we were rehearsing it. So I guess the EP was sort of like, well, what if you had to write new music while you're like living your old
Yeah,
record?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what would
yeah,
that
yeah,
be
yeah.
like? And I guess the EP is sort of or at least our answer of like what it would be like. We're not the same guys, but there is something undeniably special about Ascendancy, the energy, the music, the way it flows. It's like both to me. It's like when I hear it, it's like of its time, but it still sounds fresh in a lot of ways. And it's maybe because like a lot of people don't like play riffs and play fast stuff in that same way anymore. So it kind of almost in a weird way, like 20 years later, you're like, whoa, a lot of bands don't play like this. So it kind of almost sounds fresh to me. And
Right.
playing it, I hope people like coming out, especially if you're seeing it for the first time, we're like, wow, it is fun to hear people play like this. I mean, it'll forever be probably one of the most special things I've ever been a part of, just joining the band, doing the tour with Machine Head Chimera on Road Rage Tour and then recording that record. It's like, that was me. Like I was 4 months out of high school. It's just
Yeah,
wild
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
was the time.
Now you mentioned the EP coming out. We got 3 songs. I had a chance to listen to the EP already. I kind of love how this EP really feels to me like it's almost like a business card that you can give to somebody that has never
Yeah.
heard of Trivium before. Because like it feels that those 3 songs combined, it's almost like every different aspect, and we've gotten a lot of different sides of you guys over the last few years. Almost everything is kind of compressed in those 3 songs, and there's a ton of like twists and turns and unexpected
Yeah.
parts to every song. Like, is there? You say like, oh, we're kind of like recording this or writing this while we're in the energy of Ascendancy, but I feel like there's much more than quote unquote just
Yeah,
Ascendancy
no.
into those songs. Was that?
I would never
was
even
that
say it's like Ascendancy.
right? Was that like almost like a conscious approach that we want to pack as much into this as possible, or did it just come out that way?
I think it kind of just came out that way because it was like we were in this sort of like in between state of our studio being done
Right.
and like waiting for it to be done so we could record, but also like we had this kind of like undefined amount of time to write, so we just kind of kept writing. I think if Bury Me was the only song we wrote, which was the first one, you could maybe be like, okay, this is a little bit more Ascendancy-esque, and maybe that's what they were trying to go for. But as we kind of kept going, it kind of kept like kept elaborating more and more, and it was kind of like we didn't have a real set like this is what we want it to be. Whereas like I think when we're writing and what we're doing for the next record, we're like being a lot more conscious of like trying to really have a solid idea and concept and everything around it, whereas this felt more free flowing, which is kind of nice because it was really this was our test of the studio. Like, can we build
Right.
it? Can we write it and stuff like that? And it was yeah, it was just nice. I don't want to say like, oh, we had this like elaborate plan. It was really let's just write, let's see what comes from it. A lot of Matt's vocals, I feel like on this one, or excuse me, his lyrics were way more personal, which I would say that is maybe if you want to like say what's very similar to Ascendancy, I would say the lyrical approach, definitely for sure. But in terms of music, yeah, it's like we're different guys, and you kind of grow, and you don't want to like just be like, okay, we've only got this thing, we gotta go back to it.
Just bury me with my screams, falling me down inside.
If we park the 3 songs on the EP for a second that not everybody has heard yet, you said earlier, oh, I've got like my 4 favorite albums myself. I went on the record when crafting a list of the 10 greatest songs, or 10 greatest rock and metal songs since the year 2000. I put In Waves in there because as much as I also love Ascendancy, for me, In Waves, the album, is probably my favorite album, but also just the song, and obviously, you know, you see how the crowd reacts to that.
For sure.
But I know I don't want to be a basic bitch at the same time with Pull and with In Waves, like maybe the biggest hits. It's possible for you to say, okay, I've got 4 favorite albums, but is it at all possible for you to say this is my favorite song?
That is very tough. That is very tough. I mean, I would say there's a lot from each record that I'm like, I'm really proud of. I guess like of the ones that I brought in where it was like, I'm just like amazed I like was able to come up with something, especially when I wasn't trying, was probably In Waves. I was like really not even trying to write stuff for like Trivium stuff. It was more I was messing around with some joke stuff with Nick, our drummer at the time, and it was kind of like you stumble upon something when you're not trying, and then it ends up being kind of like it was almost like a bit of a, we've kind of had a lot of, I feel like, rebirths of the band in a way, and I feel like that was like, that song in particular was like we got a whole new generation of people into us. You know, we had Ascendancy, Crusade, Shogun in a short period of time, and then coming back in within Waves, it was kind of like, whoa.
It was like the maturing level, it felt like.
Yeah, for sure.
Different levels, yeah. You mentioned, you know, the different rebirths. You also mentioned while working with the drummer at the time. It is a bit of a forced segue into another elephant in the room. Alex is leaving the band, or has left the band now. The news came out as we're talking a few days ago only. He was there for like 9 years. That was a long time.
Yeah, like second longest drummer in the band.
Yeah. Forget about easy to say. Forget about the personal stuff like that. But you as a bass player, I mean, the drummer, the connection you have both on a personal and a musical perspective with a drummer is super critical for a band. Like you're half of the rhythm section, probably in a very different way that you have to get used to playing with a new drummer than the other 2 boys with their guitars. How does that go for you? Because you've gone through a couple now, like that journey, if you will, to get to a real, you know, rhythm unit. What's that like for you? Because you've gone through a few now.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start from square one again in a lot of ways, because the first thing you got to do is get people up to speed on the music you've done, because you're touring probably. So that takes a bit of effort. I feel like it's made me a lot more aware of like every aspect of our band, because I know the drum parts pretty well, like down to like little things that I'll like kind of like bring up from time to time, like, hey, actually this part has this blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't know, it's just something I've started to just like retain it all like in my head. And also maybe it's because like as a bass player, like you said, you focus in on the rhythm a lot more than, I mean, I guess I don't know if like a guitar player wouldn't, but like I do, you know, you focus in on the little things like that because you often are playing off of what they're doing. It's like you just have to kind of pick back up, start again. I guess for us, it's a lot easier being a band for 20 years. We have a pretty established thing. We have our records. We know them really well. It's like we know who we are. It was harder going through that in the beginning, but you know, now it's, you know, I don't want to say that we're used to it because it's like it's been 9 years, so it's like not like something we were expecting. But you're just kind of like, I just can weather and handle these kind of things a lot better. I think being our age, I think it's also like that's part of it too. Maybe when you're younger, it's a lot more of an emotional thing, but I don't feel like that now. I just know what we got to do, and it's like I want to get to it, and I want to get to the tour. I want to make sure this tour, you know, for the people coming out, this is the best Trivium show you've ever seen, and like it's got to be that level.
Yeah. All right, I'll use that as a segue away from lineup changes. The best show or the best tour you've ever seen. I've had a chance or I've had the privilege of seeing you many times over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe my favorite show of you guys was still the very special one. I don't know if you remember this one, but back in 2016, you played Graspop, and you played the main stage and the last day were, one of the, I think main stage 2 or something like that. But you also were the surprise band to open the show on the Thursday, which was really cool because that was a stripped down show with some songs you didn't play a lot before. There was no production, just one sign. I mean, obviously it's fun to do these massive production shows now that we see, but like what stands out for you as a special one, or if you had to, like, if you could think of your ultimate show, what would be important? Would it be production? Would it be song selection? Would it be location? What do you remember the show I'm talking about?
I mean, honestly, like I go back to Download 2005, and I'm like, we had no production. We had a little postage stamp, basically for a backdrop. Yeah. And it was a life-changing show. And it was, we only had 2 albums at that point, and we played 5 songs from Ascendancy, and it was like, man. It always reminds me, I'm like, it's the music, it's us on stage. The bells and whistles, of course, are great. And it's like we have to be aware of that stuff because I'm like, if we just come out with just stripped down whatever, if it's maybe like a secret thing like that, I think in that context for sure. But I do feel like fans, especially seeing you on a big main stage at a festival, especially at a certain slot, they're gonna expect a certain show. Yeah. And also, I think the festivals too, where like they're paying you a lot of money, and you're like, "Oh well, we're stripped down for this one." I don't think they'll be super happy. So it is important, but I try to always remember, like, it is the music first. So the sound, the selection of songs, how we perform them, all of those things, that to me is like the top tier. And I will always, if I had to pick, like if we had a budget for a show, like I would cut like pyro and stuff like that if I could have the sound be perfect, if I could have the ultimate PA system. Like that will always be more important to me than any of that stuff. It's like, and if we can have it all, that's great. But I guess at least that's where I kind of hold things in my like tier of like, what's the most important thing for a show? Because like you said, like some of the most important and memorable shows for people have been the ones where there was nothing, like a Secret Show, Whiskey A Go Go, the Secret Show you said, Download 2005. It's like, even in Waves, Vakken show, that was we flew in from Mayhem. We had only our backdrop. It was like, that was another life-changing show for us. And, maybe it is like, sometimes the strip back shows just like create something. You're just like, you got nothing but your songs, and maybe it makes you perform them a certain way.
Yeah. And then it's really like, if the song is not perfect, it stands out. Otherwise, you can kind of hide behind the theatrics, if you will.
Yeah.
I know when a body leaves, so bury me.
I mean, you kind of joked about it yourself earlier, but like, I'm talking to a much more mature Paolo today than I would have if I talked to you in 2005. In that journey, not only you've grown and quite literally and metaphorically, but when you talk about experience and all that kind of stuff, are there specific lessons you've learned along the way from musical heroes, from bass players or other musicians that today you kind of still go to when you are faced with something tough, like changes in tours or changes in lineup or hiccups along the way? Like, have there been, because we all, like, Matt's very open about that, and when he was 18 he got to work on the Roadrunners album, and we all knew already from day one these are his big influences and these are his heroes. For you and anybody we wouldn't expect necessarily?
I guess, like, to kind of answer your question, like I love like reading books about bands. I love reading like biographies or just histories of bands, because I think the most interesting part of a lot of the books are, especially for bands that have like existed for a long time, is like you get to really see that even at the highest level that like everyone goes through peaks and valleys in their own career. And of course, a valley for, say, a band like Metallica to everyone else is like still success. But of course. To them, like they had to go through, I mean, if you go back to like Some Kind of Monster and Saint Anger, I mean, that is a pretty rough period for a band like that. And they I know they're bigger than ever, and like, it's like fans, like definitely gave them a hard time, but a lot of people stayed with them, and like, you know, like you just kind of realize like, man, everyone has to go through the stuff. Sometimes publicly, sometimes you make the mistake of saying something and it turns into something else, you know, and you want to go back and be like, ah, I didn't mean it like that. But it's like reading this kind of stuff always reminds me like, okay, other people that you look up to have gone through stuff and gone through worse stuff even, and they just kind of persevered because they love the music, they love their band, and they saw no other life for them but this, and that you got to find your way through that. And I think that's why a lot of people, you know, it's a tough like life, because there might come a point where you're like, I don't feel that anymore. And I think when you don't feel that, you definitely do have to reconsider it, because it's like this demands everything from us. And it's like for Matt and I, we both have families, so it's like, you know, this demands everything, but so does our family. So like you're always wrestling with these things, and like you have to like, you know, you have to really kind of like prioritize both things the best you can. And it can be very stressful, but like I'll go and read a book like the Sabbath books I've been reading, and like you're like, yeah, like these guys like went through much crazier stuff than us, much higher, you know, heights and much lower lows in some ways, because of like how it shifted in like a decade or so. And then like, you know, these guys had families, these guys had lives, and then you're like, okay, they got through it, you know, and they got to the end, and like, you know, really like, yeah, they won in the end. They're like, everyone loves Sabbath and Ozzy. It's like, but there was points where you're like, in the book, you're like, well, they could have stopped there. And a lot of them like did stop for a moment, but they come back because there's something that draws them to it. So that's like my reminder of like, yeah, if you love this, you're going to have to put a lot into it, and you're going to have to like take hits. You're going to have to just deal with what comes. But the music, the shows, that stuff, if it's that important to you, you know, you don't give up on it.
There you go. You don't give up, and Trivium won't give up. Not anytime soon. I have a feeling that
I hope not.
You are going to be extremely busy into well, the remainder of this year, but also 2026. I think we're going to see some cool announcements. Maybe I'll book another trip to Graspop, but I know you can't confirm anything at this point. Paolo, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you as always.
Coming out, and have a lot of fun. And I hope the new drummer is worked in very quickly, so that you can remind them of all the little things in every song that they have.
Well, I definitely want to add at the end of this, though, like, you know, obviously thankful that Grayson was able to come in last minute. And of course, we have to say thank you to Sepultura for letting us borrow their incredible drummer and just being very gracious about it and stuff. We're very happy. I think for any Trivium fans coming out to the shows or anyone considering it, I think the songs are in good hands, and we look forward to seeing you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paolo. Thank you for all your time.
Thank you.
We'll see you on a stage, and although I think with you, we'll see you probably just in the crowd with us in the pit.
Yeah.
Have a fantastic rest of the day. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it, and subscribe to the channel.